G'day guys and welcome to the Battleforgedgaming.podcast episode 24, brought to you by Generalgameschirnside Park. Today we've got BFG Mark as always.
How's it going?
And we've got Mark from Pluto Minis. So it's going to get confusing with two Marks. But
Mark 1 and Mark 2.
Yeah, we might just go with Pluto Mark and BFG Mark.
Nice.
Yes, so our fortnightly catch-up, which we normally do.
Yep.
We've got a pretty big one to chat about because we had an event yesterday that we took part in. So we did a paint and take for the victorious 2024 event in Box Hill, which was run by the Nuttawading Wargaming Association.
Yep.
Otherwise known as the NWA.
That's why I'm chuckling, people.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think overall the event, because I didn't know what to expect, you know, because it wasn't just the 40K event. It was like hobby in general. Like there was tons of different gaming systems there I've never even seen.
Yeah, there was.
Like 30 plus different gaming systems. And I guess in my naivety, I thought it would probably be a little bit more quiet because it wasn't just based on Warhammer, but I was wrong.
Yeah.
I was very, very wrong. I thought that we were potentially not going to be that busy with just a paint and take with random miniatures for people to paint, but we were just as busy as we were at DreamHack.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
So I think it was a very, very big success.
Lots of different ages painting as well. You had a lot of very young.
There was a lot of
kids
young
come in
people
painting, which is good.
I got a massive kick from just seeing little kids just turn around to their like mum or dad with a model with the biggest grin on their face, and I was just like, "That's why we like." I don't even think we got that much following from that type of stuff, but just helping people get into the hobby was amazing. Like, absolutely loved it, and I got to say a big thank you to BFG Mark, his brother James. We had Rachel come from Mafra.
Yes. Wow. That's it.
2.5 hour drive. So she was absolute natural at helping people learn how to paint. Your partner, Britt.
Yep.
Marvin, the linchpin of BFG. I'll tell you what. We've sort of had to do a reset without background mic, but I tell you what, Marvin's picked that up. And just run with it. He's just run with it. And also, Kale was going to come and help, but he had some stuff happen, which was completely fine, but he would have been in his element there. Like, from DreamHack to Victorious, he would have just been in his element. It was so cool.
It was good having the girls there. I think it helped having some females as well.
For sure. It just made it more welcoming. Not that I'm, I think I'm pretty welcoming. But the girls, like, you could see, the little kids were pointing out the girls and saying, I want to go talk to them. I want to paint models. So thank you to everyone that helped. It was
awesome. It was a good day.
It was so good. And thank you for the opportunity from General Games, because they're the ones that allowed us to get in contact with NWA to run the take and paint. Yeah. It's never not going to be funny, but it's just quicker. It's quicker to say NWA than Nuttawading Wargaming Association. So yeah, I had a blast. Had an absolute blast. Long day, tiring, but well worth it. Worth it. And it's always a learning experience. If we go back next year, we're going to go back more
planned. The more events we're doing,
much more planned out.
We would need it to be planned out. And now, knowing what we're expecting, we can sit down with NWA and sort of maybe plan with them how we'd like to do the paint classes. Just, I think, maybe a little bit more structure so we don't have a couple of seats held up for a little bit too long. The
paint and take was very cool because people could just do what they wanted, but a little more structured where we can get numbers, we can have times for people to book in like we did at DreamHack, and then people can walk away with a fully completed miniature that they can be proud of. I think would work a little bit better.
Yeah.
But again, that's just all learning and seeing how it goes. I did think we were going to have some people sit down for longer than they probably should have. We had someone sit down for like 5 hours.
Wow.
He was obviously deeply invested in some models, but it was fantastic. It was fantastic. So apart from that, what have you been up to? Let me guess. Can I guess?
Yeah, you can guess. I don't know if you'll get it.
Hormagaunts.
Yes. Yes. They are almost finished. I have very much going from the large carapaces to the small, a lot more finicky than I expected. So the first time I went to do one, I completely stuffed up how I was holding it and had to repaint the carapace all over again because I just didn't do it very nicely.
Well, you just like the feathering on the carapace?
I used a too big brush and I was like, I'll get away with it. And then once I wasn't going to get away with it, I'm too fussy with it. I was like, I'm not going to be able to do that. But I've pretty much just got the carapace and final highlights to go. Well, not the carapace. I've got the highlights on my carapace to go and the highlights of the skin. And then that's the Hormagaunts done. And then it will be gargoyles next. So...
Oh, man, you're just a sucker for just battle line torture.
Yeah.
But the fantastic thing is you finish all those battle line and then you can just paint the cool big bugs, the elite stuff.
Which I'm keen on because the next project after all the battle line stuff will be 3 Carnifexes. So
yeah, see, that'll be fun.
Yeah, that'll be cool. And once I got them painted, as what BFG is about, I'm going to have a painted army, and I sort of want to try and get a bit of everything from the Tyranids done. So once we get our battle reports up that people are keen for, I can sort of show as many models of Tyranids as possible so people can see variations.
Yeah, that's what's going to be the difficult thing for us doing the battle reports because we don't have commission painters and it's just going to be Battleforge Gaming people painting stuff.
Yeah.
We'll sort of be trying to stick to one army but painting multiple units so we can change lists more than painting multiple armies because it's going to be easier to add an extra unit than it is to paint up 2,000 points of something else.
Yes, definitely.
Not to say you won't have 2 armies in the future for battle reports, but that's how we're going to start because it's going to be the easiest way.
Good way to keep us on track as well for painting a single army. So what about yourself? What have you been up to?
Land Raider for probably as long as you've been painting. As long as you've been painting Hormagaunts.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. I think, had I finished your miniature before the last podcast? I can't remember.
It's a couple of weeks ago, yeah.
It was, yeah. I think I had finished it. Or maybe I was starting it the last podcast.
Might have been. Yes, that sort of could have been.
Yeah, I was starting it. That's right. The Saturday night I was starting it.
That's right.
So I painted a Pluto miniature. Well, we'll bring it up later. I'll bring it up later when we start talking. Yeah. And Mark, what have you been up to? Have you been actually painting stuff? Because we were chatting about an airbrush.
Well, Justin, as I mentioned to you earlier, tuning into you and watching you paint that elemental has really got me inspired. So I've gone out and got all my paints out and I've set up my desk again and got some new paints. I've got a birthday coming up, so that's all been sorted. You got me excited about an airbrush. So I've got one of those waiting, being wrapped up. So that's got a couple of weeks before I'm allowed to open it. I'm looking forward to doing that again. It's been a while.
It's awesome. It's my favorite thing is to get people excited about painting. Yeah, when you messaged me about airbrushes, I was like, yes.
We went in and saw those guys and they sort of helped me out and gave me some suggestions.
Yeah.
Those mutual friends and
it
was awesome.
Oh, we can chat about House of War because we'll be talking about them later because we'll be chatting about some big.
We probably should say thank you for House as well.
Big shout out to House of War because they did supply us with brushes as well for Victorious. And General Games actually gave us paints as well. Yes. So, it's for us, for Battleforge Gaming, it's a little bit difficult for us to juggle between 2 people helping us. But the more people that can jump on board and help us, the easier it is for us. So,
and the more we can
and it's hard for me to knock back people wanting to help. So,
well, we're trying to grow the community. That's the goal. So the more people we can sort of get on board,
and I think we can promote stores equally because both have things they're really, really good at. So
yes,
I think there's kind of 2 mindsets in the world, right? There's this sort of abundance mindset, and then there's a scarcity mindset. And I think when you talk about 2 stores, is there enough success in the world for both stores to be successful? Well, an abundance mindset would say absolutely there is.
Yep.
They can both be successful. You can, they don't have to tear one down for them to be successful, right?
Yes.
And so I think that's great what you do, and I think it's great that you take help from everyone and you talk about everyone. I think it's, there's enough success for everyone, right?
Yep, for sure. So do you know what miniature is going to be the first miniature you're going to start on?
Well,
is it going to be a Pluto miniature? It has to be a Pluto miniature.
It's got to be a Pluto miniature. So, those bite the bullet. So we get our licenses from lots of different artists from around the world, right?
Yep.
And Bite the Bullet was the artist, an amazing couple out of Spain.
Yeah.
Who created that sculpt. And
I did see because when I bring the images up, we might do it now. How about we'll do it now?
Help people to know what we're talking about.
I saw that people will be able to see this on the screen. Hopefully, Bite the Bullets down in the little bottom corner of the images.
It's for me. It's part of that abundance piece, right? So we buy licenses, commercial licenses, so they get paid every month. It's not we buy a model once and print it over and over. I'll take every opportunity to promote the sculptor, knowing that a large number of people are going to see that, go buy that model and print it themselves, and I don't get anything out of that, other than I'm adding to the community, right?
Yes.
People that want to print at home, we think everyone should print at home.
Yep.
We just know that not everybody has the time, space, and money for a hobby like resin printing.
Yep, for sure. That's me. I can't do it.
Yeah, and so, for us, it was very much about adding. So if I can promote an artist and there's someone out there that can print it themselves, go, here it is. Here's the link to it. I've spent hours at booths, at conventions like DreamHack, helping people with their resin printer at home.
Yeah.
They go, which printer should I get? Or I'm having this problem. I'll take time away. Genuinely, it'll sort of impact me in some way commercially, but the whole point for us was community. And so, that's why.
But it's like you're saying, just because you might be taking business away from yourself in one aspect, but there's plenty of business to go around for multiple people at the same time.
It's exactly right. And, we got into this because our family just wanted a better tabletop. This is joy for us. And the moment the only driver or the main driver is money, that's when I'm going to stop enjoying it, and that's when I'm going to stop doing it.
Yeah, I think
because I've got a day job. Right?
I think too many times people put success and money together, and it's not always the case. Like success for you and for us is helping the community. I love to inspire people to paint stuff.
Yeah,
and every time I get a message from someone who's like, hey, I painted this model. This is what I painted a year ago, and this is what I paint now. And some people don't even ask questions. One guy sent me a message from a year apart models. He basically paints like me now with a year in between. And he's like, I just watch your streams and I pick up on stuff.
Yep.
So success shouldn't always be related to money. I don't think.
One thing that I love is,
and don't get me wrong, I'd love to be able to do this as a job.
Sure, I mean, same for me.
that would be absolutely fantastic. And obviously, you need money to be able to do that.
Yes.
But if I can help inspire people, help the community out, then that's
having a chat to people when we go to the conventions and stuff that we've been doing, and talking to people that have the same interests as well. You don't feel like it's a chore or anything else. It feels like you're just doing what you love on a larger scale.
Some people didn't even want to paint models. Some people sat down at our table and just wanted to show us the stuff they painted and chat about stuff.
Yeah.
Or how do you paint your models in sub assemblies? Like that's what they. Some people just didn't even want to paint. They just wanted to talk,
which is great. Yeah.
Awesome. So the answer to your question is I'm a DM for a couple of games, and so through COVID meant that we were online for our Dungeons and Dragons games, but with my newfound ability to print endless minis and terrain and whatever else, I've implemented an in-person game at my home.
Yep.
And so I'm going to be painting the minis of the players.
Nice.
For my campaign.
Very nice.
As my first task. I mean, it's a bit of bad luck for them, given it's my first minis in a few years.
Hey, you got to start somewhere, and you're jumping in, so that's fantastic.
Probably better than the Zenithal highlighted primer that's on them at the moment.
So, I guess starting to talk about Pluto Miniatures is a good segue to get into your origin story. So my favorite part of every single podcast is
Sure.
learning about how each guest discovered. It doesn't have to be Warhammer. It could just be any type of hobby that sort of led to where they are now. So
Yeah.
was Warhammer your initial sort of intro, or
No. Well, I did Warhammer 20 odd years ago now. I have an Empire army that I painted back then that I played for a while. But
yeah, so fantasy.
yeah,
Fantasy
it was
Empire.
always fantasy. So, reading books, it was, early days, it was, Raymond Feist. Magician's one of my favorite all-time books. It was Lord of the Rings. It was all those. That was my home. In terms of the Pluto origin story, actually a bit grim, actually. It was a funeral of a mate, 42, had a congenital heart condition, didn't realise it. Went to gym, had a big day and went home and died
Wow.
from this condition. And it was at his funeral that a whole heap of people got up and were talking about him at the tabletop. And all
Right.
these memories of them sitting around playing tabletop games. At the time, I was looking for other games to play with my son, a young teenager. We were playing a lot of video games. I've played video games, since the Apple IIe. I think it was 84, something like that.
Yep.
So I've been playing computer games since 84. And
Right. I was one in 84.
Well, there you go. Oh,
I wasn't even
jeez.
thought about.
I can't remember what my first. I think my first system was just the regular Sega.
No,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think that was my Alex the Kid.
This
Was my.
do you remember was that your first game?
Yeah,
I think it was
Sega.
Alex the
Yeah.
Kid.
Sega.
Yeah.
So was mine, Alex the Kid on Sega. Mum
Yeah.
bought me a Sega, and I thought it was the greatest thing ever.
Yeah. And I
And
got
then-
around Wonder Boy a lot too.
Wonder Boy was one we had the Terminator game where you had the pistol that plugged into the Sega and you'd shoot the tally and stuff. And
Yeah.
yeah, it was so yeah.
The
Well-
nostalgia behind some, like,
Well,
you just get involved. Yeah.
Yeah.
that genre of game and
Yeah.
paddle, right? With just a bit of that. So I've been playing video games my entire life. However, about call it 5 years ago. Yep, 5 years ago. We're at this funeral and I was looking for alternatives to video games for me and my son, my family. And I was at this funeral, they were all talking about tabletop and I'd never really done it much.
Yep.
And I had no idea what Dungeons and Dragons was. Like I'd never heard of it. I'd heard of it rather, but I didn't know it all. Which is probably odd given I consider myself a nerd.
Well,
I shouldn't say that.
I've never
right?
done D&D ever, and I've heard of it. So
Yeah.
it's just something I've never.
Well, there was the whole satanic panic and all that sort of stuff through the 80s and 90s. It was all devil worship and all this sort of stuff that was surrounding D&D. And I didn't really get into it or anything else, but I just didn't know anything about it. I jumped on YouTube, Dungeons and Dragons play, and it the first thing in the algorithm was a Critical Role live stream where it was the Search for Grog. It was one of their first live at a theatre essentially, and I was hooked immediately. It was 4.5 hours or something like that. And I said, this is incredible. I went to work and I was chatting to a mate. He's gone, yeah. I used to play when I was a kid and I've got a couple of sons who are really into it. I'll run a game for you and your son. And so we did that a couple of times and I was more hooked. And then I said, I want a DM. And so I went and started reading all the books. And I was going to run, I think, a simple one shot for my family. And I needed 6 orcs. Yep. So I jumped online to buy some orcs. I was like, oh, it's not really much out there. And gee, they're expensive. And they're a bit boring, like it was 2 orcs. So I went into a store and they had, I think they were $10 an orc. And it was the same, it was a pack of 2. And I needed 6. So it was going to be the same 2 times 3. So it was, 3 of each. They were kind of low res and boring. So there's got to be a better way. I didn't buy them. I went home and started searching. And a random Reddit thread. So well, just print your own. Well, what do you mean? I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
So I started looking into printing my own. And there was I think there was a set online of orcs. Like 80 different orcs. Yeah. Some on riders, boars, you name it, all these different. I printed out a couple, and like it just blew me away. Like the technicality of it, the beauty of it, like all of it together, that you could take a puddle of liquid, right, come back a few hours later and you've got this incredibly beautiful sculpted mini. And so that, just the other part of my personality, had me hooked immediately. And so we printed them out, we played our game, I thought it was fantastic. And I remember there was a store in the city that sells minis, Dungeon and Magic. He's in the Burke Street Mall. And I knew that he sold secondhand stuff. So I thought, I reckon, given how much there seems to be a gap here, I reckon he'd be interested for his customers. And so I painstakingly printed all 80 of them, right?
And this is with like your first intro printer, not what you've got now?
Of course, yeah. This was the printer I bought for my own home. It was pretty good, but yes. And I had no idea what I was doing. And so I used the pre-supported models. I didn't support anything myself. And I printed out all 80. And I had my Empire Warhammer box, actually, with the red inserts.
Yep.
And I laid out all 80 of them and I took them in. I was so proud. My son and I went in. And I said to him, I said, oh, look, would you be interested in maybe putting these out for your customers? Because we think they're incredible compared to what's available. And he goes, oh, I'll have a look. And I opened the box and he picked one up and he looked at it and went, that's too small for an orc, and put it back down again. Right? And the scale was out by 50%.
Right.
And I'm like, well, that's okay. Like panicking inside, that's okay. We can resize them really easily. He's like, oh, I'll have a look, reprint them and I'll have a look. I said, maybe you could just pick 8 that you think look good and I'll print those 8 at the new size. So he did. He picked out 8. I went back, I think it was a week later. Got like a Chinese takeaway tub, put a bit of foam in the bottom, a bit of fluffy foam, some bases in there and put a little laser printed label on the front, orcs, printed by, I think they were Runeforge, was the artist. And he goes, all right, we'll give it a go. Yep. $20 he sold them. It was $20. And my son and I walk out high-fiving each other. He's agreed to try to sell this pack of orcs. We went to a pizza shop to celebrate. The pizza was $24. The parking was another $8. So we spent $32. However, we got this pizza, and by the time, as we were getting in the car park, he'd sent me a text, I've sold the orcs. Right? So it was less than an hour later, and that's how Pluto started.
Wow.
2 years later, he essentially now doesn't stock Wizards of the Coast at all.
Right.
His entire back wall where he's got minis, it's probably a 6-meter wall, is all Pluto Minis. There's well over 100 different packs on the wall now. Some of those packs have 9 different minis in them. And that's kind of how Pluto started. Yeah.
It's crazy. Crazy.
Very
I
cool.
was expecting like the big shoot down. He's like, no, I'm not selling these. When you were like, you were building to it, and I was like, oh, he's going to get shot down.
Yeah. Well, like I said, we were so stoked that he'd even agree to do it. And now, there's a backlog of, there's a lot's changed in terms of what we'll put into a packet, what we do to a mini before we put it in a pack, how we construct our packs. And it's all working backwards from customers who are typically DMs, not always, and working backwards from what they need.
Yeah.
Because, when we said we want to sell or we want to think about selling and providing these to customers, we kind of sat down and we said, well, what do we want to make sure is always true? The corny North Star mission statement, whatever you want to call it. And we sort of had 3 things. We said, 1, it should be better than most people could print at home. Yep. If we're going to sell them, it should be better than most people can print at home.
Yep.
It's got to remain affordable. Yeah. Even if we get an amazingly crazy great quality product that's worth more, the reason we got into it, the reason we started was because it wasn't affordable. So we said it has to remain affordable. Yeah. And the third one was we wanted to make every environmental choice we can, every environmentally friendly choice. So that foam that I mentioned that we put at the bottom of all our packets, that's in that pack I gave you,
Yep.
Most of it comes from going to furniture manufacturing companies who are about to throw it out.
Right.
It's about to go in the bin, and we grab it and reclaim it before they put it in the bin, and it gets one more use. And we hope that people get to use those packages over and over to keep their minis safe. So that's kind of the example. We use a plant-based resin, for example. Now, plant-based resins are much harder on our side of things. They can be more brittle in some ways, so we add some industrial flexible resin to make them a bit tougher, a bit more flexible, because that was the most environmental resin you can get.
Yep.
So.
And mixing your resins and stuff, is this you doing sort of like trial and error type of stuff?
That's exactly what it
like
is.
you're printing, you're like, we're gonna add 10% of the industrial resin, and then you're like, you're still snapping. So.
Exactly, it's exactly what it is, yeah. And then we're always balancing that with the resolution piece, right? So those flexible resins are really great, but you do lose a bit of res with them. And so we're trying to always, that first thing I said, better than most people can print at home.
Yeah.
Most people can't take the time to mix, whatever it was. I think we went through 18 different resins and then mix that with the flexible different resins at 1% increments until they get the right level. Most people couldn't do that at home. And that's, again, always coming back from those sort of rules.
Yeah, it was definitely something I couldn't do. Like, I know that for a fact. And like me as a painter, I really enjoy the Pluto Miniatures because the one thing that deterred me from 3D printed stuff, because I got some like upgrade parts printed by, I can't remember who it was. It might have been Pop Goes the Monkey. They had the lines through it.
Yeah.
And I did my best to paint it, and my varnish does a pretty good job at like removing the light that catches on the lines. Mm-hmm. So when I got your darkness elemental that I painted, I showed people before, I'll bring it up again. When I painted this darkness elemental and there was no lines through it, I was like, it just blew me away.
That was where I was going to go with it. I was going to ask a question in relation to those lines. Because you were just saying that it's a liquid that goes solid, obviously. Yep. Is that the difference with the quality? Because it's not on a coil. Is that how you've removed that line structure that some 3D printing gets into it? Because as Justin was saying, when I first saw your models, I couldn't believe the quality. I've never seen a 3D.
To the size as well.
Yeah, to the size and the quality that you have. Yeah. I always thought all 3D printing had lines in it because I was always interested. I was like, getting a 3D printer is wicked, and being like a sign writer into hobby and stuff like that, I like quality. So when I saw 3D printed stuff, I'd always seen it with the lines and I was just like, no, it's not for me. I can't see how you can paint that nicely. And then
I think that's a painter thing too, right? Because I think a lot of painters are like sticklers for that sort of the quality type end of stuff. So for painters out there that want to paint something different for D&D, like Pluto Miniatures is like something worth looking at.
The quality is crazy. When you brought the stuff over at DreamHack the first time we met you and we were looking through it in the box, both me, Justin, even the other guys that were there, Tiny, we were looking at it and I was like, how, is this 3D printed? Like, how is this? And there's no lines. My head couldn't wrap around it, but you, as you were saying, you're a quality control person. Quality is up there with your stuff. So it's impressive. How the models look are very impressive.
So firstly, thank you both. Hearing that from people in your industry is like that's a real kick. That's a real buzz for us, right? The answer to the question is, so the way that resin printing works is essentially if you can take an object, let's say it's this mug, the way
we'll be talking to you about some mugs soon too as well. Actually, yeah.
Is that a metaphor?
No, we're actually
just joking.
No, we actually want to try and get some 3D printed paint pots, like the water pots.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
totally. Probably not resin though. We'll go probably with FDM.
No, we'll leave that up to you. What it needs to be made out of.
Yeah. Well, so the way resin printing works is it prints. If you can imagine this, imagine you slice it into 1,000 slices. Yep. Each slice has a thickness which you can configure. The thicker the slice, the more likely it is that you'll see those lines, especially on curves.
Yeah.
So if you can see the top of that handle, when you get to the very top, if you slice that horizontally across and it's a thick slice, well, that's where you see that step.
Yep.
Yep. So
Almost like Lego.
exactly like Lego. If you exactly like that, if you step far enough back and you've used a triple block, it kind of. But if you're up close, you really see it. So, point number one: better than most people can print at home. The supporting process is pretty intense. All the artists do a really great job of releasing models pre-supported, which means the scaffolding that goes around the model to hold the model in place while it's being printed is pre-provided by artists. However, because we've tuned the bejeebers out of everything we do, out of the machines, there's something like 30 different settings just on the configuration of the speed, thickness, all these things that go into the printer for every file you print. So because we've tuned so much of that, we can use what some people call featherlight supports. So one of the first challenges you probably noticed with some of your printers is there'll be pock marks on certain faces. And you would have seen it on the bottom of your elemental, for example.
Yeah.
You'll see those little pock marks.
Yeah.
But you probably didn't see too many of them anywhere else. And if you did, they were on surfaces that weren't either front-facing or important.
Yeah, sort of just under his little, I don't know what you
under
call
that
it.
swirl, right?
Yeah, the swirl.
So that model would be in the top 3 most difficult models to print and not turn up layer lines, because of those curves and those swirls means that every direction, doesn't matter how it's oriented versus the vertical slices, there will be one of those surfaces that's parallel to the build plate.
Yeah.
And that's where the layer lines, and that's where one of the things we do is we go over the top. Number one, we use a really fine, less than hair thickness layer height. Impact on us takes way longer to print something. If you've got 1,000 slices versus 5,000 slices, it takes us way longer, more chance for misprints, costs us more, all that sort of stuff. Point number one, better than most people can print at home. People aren't going to print like that at home. And so that's, and then we re-support everything, which means those pock marks are going to be a lot less, and we can decide, well, this is the face of the model. Maybe it supports better that way. Maybe it'll come pre-supported that way. Maybe it's harder to support it that way, but the product at the end will mean that face has never even had a support touching it. Yeah. And therefore, so we spend a lot of time, and that takes hours and hours just to get a model ready for printing.
Yeah. So trial and error as well in like, so you're basically you're getting their existing STL and altering it to get a better finish on the model.
Yeah. And then there's the non-functional stuff. So for example, I was looking at a model this morning, and the base of it, when it was a flat in the slicer, I could see that we could see that it wasn't dead set flat. Yeah. Yeah. Which means it would it wouldn't sit perfectly flat. So we put those back into the editors, and we'll trim and we'll slice, and we'll make sure that bottom surface 100% flat. Okay. Yeah. So things like that. There's things you don't see. Some of the models will come with holes in the middle, and they shouldn't have holes in the middle. And the problem with that is that the resin will never cure if it's in those holes. And so for whatever reason, if that model should ever totally be busted open, somebody will end up with a bit of wet resin, which they shouldn't have. And so there's stuff that we do that people will never, ever see, but we know that's a better model. That's been printed better because we've done that pre-work.
Very good.
Very much like our side of the job with sign writing. Like we'll do stuff on certain cars that people will never ever pick up. Like when you're doing some nice clean overlaps, when you've got to do a join with a wrap, and people will never pick up on it. If you point it out, they'll be like, "Oh, okay, yeah, no, that's good." But if you never said anything, they wouldn't even know.
Yeah, like using body lines for joins and stuff like that, so it just looks like So it's just that extra time that you put into it that makes the quality come out the way that it does. Yeah,
and it's basically treating the models as they're your own models. Yeah, but now it's out there for people to buy and paint.
Yeah, I mean, that store I mentioned now House of War as well, by the way, has got our full
big wall
full of Pluto Minis and my biggest constraint as a business is the number of models available. So I think at last count, we have access to something like 9,000 STLs that I could add to the catalogue. Yeah, maybe there's 500 actually in my official, like 500 minis, maybe it's 120 packets. So a packet, like I said, might have 9 minis in it.
Yeah.
So my biggest constraint is the number of things in my range. If I could print all 9,000, well, then obviously that's going to be better for Pluto, right? But the problem with that is that I have to spend those hours first.
Yeah.
And I could tonight go and just print any of those 9,000. I think I have an octopus firing a cannon somewhere in terms of the random number of files we've got.
Yeah.
But if we went home, I could go home and just print them straight from the artist tonight, and I'd have mega range overnight. But point number one, that's not better than most people could print at home, so we don't do it.
Yeah. So when you do your selection for your models, this is, you were talking about listening to your customers.
100%.
This is sort of, so if someone was like, hey, I want an octopus holding a cannon.
Absolutely.
Then you'd be like, all right, well,
it turns out I've got one of those.
It's time to start working on the octopus.
Genuinely today, I've had somebody put in a request and it's now in the backlog. Probably in the next month, we're going to have a big fire elemental, big sort of actually same artist that you're Bite the Bullet.
Yeah. They're my favourite artists.
They make like this, I think it's about, I don't know, maybe 12, 13 centimetre tall, 5-part fire elemental. Pretty sure it was inspired by Warcraft. One of the, it's killing me, the fire elemental out of the Molten Core raid in World of Warcraft. I cannot remember the name of that boss. But anyway, so that's gone into the backlog this morning, and yesterday somebody asked me for some other things. Actually, some Elden Ring models that Bite the Bullet make.
Right.
That's cool. That's very cool.
So, I meant to ask you about that too.
When you say 5-part, does that mean that the people then have to glue those that together?
Correct.
And is that another task that's a little difficult? Do you do the same thing like we were saying with the car wrap? Will you then try and with the 5-part to make it so when it's glued together you can't see where it's being glued together? So or is that part a bit harder? So that would make it fair.
It's a great question. So we have some dragons that we have.
Yep.
And they came from the artist. They came with the body, tail, I think, and the head was separate, and then the wings. Now, I looked at that and went, the tail and the head don't need to be separate here. So I jump into the tool. I'll join them again and print them so there is no join.
Yep.
So I'll re-support it. 1 part for the body, and we leave the wings off because we know that it's much harder to get under the wings and paint.
Yep.
And to glue a pair of wings on with a bit of super glue, well, that's not too bad.
Yep.
In fact, that's pretty good. And so the answer to your question is if it makes sense.
Yes.
So looking at that model I just mentioned, the arms might be exactly that, where I can, we'll look at that and we'll join the arms in the software.
Yes. Okay.
Before we print it. So the arms body will come as one. The other thing that we've started doing is now, we started with resin, and resin's our passion and minis are our passion, but we have started doing some FDM printing as well. So that's the nozzle with the filament printing that you've probably seen on Tally and whatever else. We have a dragon that's sitting on as an example of what we're doing, is we have a dragon sitting on a gold hoard. And so there's this sort of base, which is all coins and chests and crowns and gems. And we've got this really sweet gold and silver colour shift filament, really shiny, beautiful filament. And so we print the base with the FDM printer. Again, we apply all of our quality rules to that. But then we print the dragon with the resin printer. And so you get this sort of, we're bringing these worlds together where we can do that. The fire elemental is the same kind of story, where it's got this sort of sculpted cool base.
Yep.
And I was just thinking about, maybe that's another opportunity. I've got a gold red filament or something like that where we can bring together these two worlds.
Okay, cool.
And so it's just constantly learning. I know nothing about printing. I've got so much to learn about printing. That's where I start, and I learn a lot from my customers, and we love feedback, and we're always up for new ideas.
Well, for someone who doesn't know much about printing, I got to say that again, the quality is huge compared. People that have been online printing for years aren't near this quality. Like I would encourage people to get a Pluto miniature just to see the quality of it. And like I was saying, painters need high quality stuff.
Yeah.
I know there's some painters out there that are now starting to do their own 3D rendering with certain things when they're wanting parts, because I guess this is where the hobby's heading now.
It is.
So not only are people like high level painters, now they're making their own files and adding upgrade parts to their models.
You've no doubt seen the AI art generation explode over the last months.
Yeah, there was actually one guy
Mm-hmm.
in the Golden Demon
Right.
that used AI
Right.
and printed his background of his piece, and he won a gold for it. Yeah, there's a little bit of an uproar with that
There
one.
I was going to say.
Yeah.
Well, now there's AI 3D model generators.
We were chatting about that. Yeah.
well, no, like you text to model.
Oh,
I would like a goblin holding a spear. I would like a land raider.
can I type in? I would like a sanguinary guard with wings again,
Well,
please.
Yeah. I'm not sure whether the public domain knowledge that these AI models are learning from, but now it's 3D models can be generated out of text, and then you can take that model and go and print it. In the last 3 months, it's gone from pretty janky to that's actually not terrible.
Yeah, I've realized that AI stuff's starting to like it learns real fast.
It's
like
scary
the chat GPT started off like a little bit simple, and now it's like absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah.
My mate did it with like a music one and the artwork. So
It's wild. It's
wild.
how quick technology is advancing, and it's great. But then it's like I'm one of those people who thinks about it from both ways as well, seeing what it can do. Like
Skynet.
not even Skynet. It's just like these videos. You're now getting videos of like there's ones that I've seen of Putin, Russian's president, doing the most wildest things. And
Deep fakes.
other than knowing like that it's not real, it's showing how quick it's potential that you can be set up for something, or a video can be made of you and it's not you, but it looks so realistic. It's
Not that
funny.
I know.
It's
I
true.
heard from a friend, but I think one of the highest earning OFs,
Yeah,
OnlyFans, is an AI.
It's AI. It's been
Wow.
AI for ages. Yeah, it's crazy. So it's like I like the thought of it, but I also think I think we need to limit what it's going to be used for. So for modeling and stuff, I think it's great. I think it's awesome, but for other things, I think not so much. I don't think we need it on our phones and stuff in Messenger and all that kind of stuff. I think that's a bit of a.
I mean, I don't use it at
Neither do
all.
I.
It pops up in my Instagram, like the
Accidentally click
AI,
that
and I'm
sometimes.
just like, I've never used it, and I guess it's just me. I don't see the point of it, but potentially going down the route of using AI to generate a 3D sculpt is fantastic, because we were talking about. I've chatted to Mark about doing some Sanguinary Guard upgrades from the old box and adding them to the new box, because like they're a little bit underdone, the new guys. I don't know if you've seen them at all.
I haven't.
Yeah, it's a little bit sad.
Was it disappointing? Was it?
Yeah. So essentially a very iconic unit for the Blood Angels.
Yeah, absolutely.
Some guys in some artificed armor with like muscle, like they've got pecs and abs, and they've got those on their model.
Yeah.
But they lost the wings that were attached to their jump pack, which were very iconic because they put the wings on because of their Primarch Sanguinius. They wanted to be like Sanguinius. That's why they had the wings in their jump pack. And for whatever reason, Games Workshop has been...
They technically have wings, but they're like...
Yeah, they're tiny. Games Workshop's been really good with a lot of models, but lately some models, they're just like... It feels like they've just released them too early. Yeah.
Just rushed them out.
Yeah. So there's a lot of 3D printers out there already making wings upgrades for them. And I'm assuming they will probably make a fair bit of money. But at the same time, Games Workshop, Lockie was telling me, I didn't see the actual post, Games Workshop's come out and said in the future there could be an upgrade pack, which for me is a little bit of a cop-out. And I reckon if they do that, it's probably the wrong thing. Just let the 3D printer guys succeed here and
shouldn't be
some money
bringing
to-
out a model that you need to
you shouldn't-
change.
Yeah, well, my big thing on those models is you shouldn't buy a model from the top level model creators, you shouldn't buy a box from them and feel the need to want to improve on it.
Yeah, that's right.
You should buy the box and be like, I could add my own personal touch to this, and then I can feel like they're my own. But I could just paint them like they are, and I'd be very happy with them as well.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the Sanguinary Guard are not like that. Kotez is not like that, and I'm sure it's probably not going to be the last model that's like that. And I'm a GW fanboy. Like, I love their stuff. I love it, but man, you stuffed up with those Sanguinary Guard. So yeah, I hope they don't come out with an upgrade pack with wings, because that'd just be like trying to get back with your ex or something. Like
Interesting analogy.
You've made that mistake. No, you know what it's more like a car, right? It's more like a car used to be a performance car, and then you're like, oh cool, the new one's coming out, the new performance car's coming out, and you go and buy it. It's the same price. It's the same price as what it used to be, probably a little bit more because of inflation. And then you get it home and they're just like, oh, actually, you know how this was a V6 turbo. Well, the new one doesn't have a turbo in it. But in the future, you can actually just buy the turbo and put it in it. Like, there's room for it and you can put it in there.
But you get it later.
You get it later. Yeah, you get it later. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so big miss.
Yes. I agree. Lamartis. I love Lamartis.
This is the thing. Like, they've nailed some models. The new stuff for the Blood Angels, Lamartis, Asterath, the Death Company, the upgrade packs, all very
cool.
good.
Yeah.
Sanguinary Guard, not so good. And that's the one they should be getting right. So, yeah, we'll have a chat once I work out how to do some scanning of some stuff or do the AI, and then I'll get some high level 3D printed parts.
Yeah, I don't know about the AI stuff like that. Those artists, Bite the Bullet, who I just adore. They're called Bite the Bullet. It's a couple out of Spain who had corporate jobs, and they wanted to follow their passion of 3D sculpting, and they decided to bite the bullet and quit their jobs.
That stuff's wild to me.
Have a crack at it.
Just straight up quitting is like the most ballsy thing ever.
That's what they did. Right?
That'd be like me.
Now this couple make a living out of 3D sculpting.
Crazy.
Makes me anxious thinking
Dude, that'd
about
be
it.
like me.
I know, right?
That'd be like me going to work and giving my boss 2 weeks notice and being like, I'm going to do content creation now. Oh my God.
Yeah.
No.
But
I'd love to, but yeah.
But that's, for me, I'm always going to back those guys in. I'm always going to pay artists because that abundance piece, that thing that I try to hold so dear, means I want other people to be successful.
With the AI, but do you think that can potentially kill, like, obviously it's still creative in its own way, but it can sort of kill art in a way, because now you can just type it into a computer and tell it what to do and it can make anything. Whereas there's so many artists out there. I'm an artist, hence why I'm covered in drawings. Like, the amount of time you have to put into an actual artwork with a painting and stuff like that, there is hundreds of hours some people put into paintings. And like you were saying, I'd love to support those people, but it's like signage. When signage used to all be hand painted and now it's gone to vinyl, it kind of killed off a skill, because people don't, like, you get the every now and then person wanting to pay for a hand painted sign. But why would you pay $300 for a sign that you can get the same price for $50 kind of thing?
Yep.
That's another concern I have with the AI I
think right now with the AI is with artwork, because we've actually at my work, we've used AI artwork. It's still not there.
Okay. Yeah.
It's, I think it'll probably get there, but like it'll do, like, we've done a gym and it did a render of a girl and she had like 3 fingers. She had like Ninja Turtle
hands
fingers.
For some reason are really difficult. That's the number one thing that they have trouble with.
The AI doesn't understand these things.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. Absolutely. Like, even if you think about music over the last, say, 15 years, when we all agreed to stop buying albums and just subscribe to a Spotify or whatever.
Yes.
Had a massive impact on the music industry, had a massive impact on the individualization of bands and the way they, so the challenge with it is that we all agreed to do it because we all stopped buying albums.
Yeah,
right?
That's true.
And I think that's the same thing here, is that when
it's that whole mass, affordable thing, I guess.
We decide to go for the affordable vinyl sign over the less affordable but more
Yes.
customized artist piece of work. It's actually us as a community that's making the decision.
It's true. It's a good way of looking at it. It's a very good way of looking at it.
Yeah.
Never thought about it that way. So we kind of do it to ourselves in a way.
We do.
Yeah.
Right? It's we all the high street the high street game shop, which is so dear to me. Yep. Why did I decide to go into a game shop and make that my first port of call? Well, because so much of this is community. Why do I go to conventions? Why did I walk up to you guys at DreamHack? Well, anything I can do to be a part of the community, I'm going to do that, right?
Yes.
Because that's what it's about. Yeah, it took me, 18 months to stand up a website because there were so many customers that would head into that city store that were traveling. And they go, oh, do you have a website? I don't promote the website. I don't want to do anything on the website. It's not.
We'll be promoting it.
Well, for me, it's not. Again, that's the commercial lens. Like if I was trying to make mega bucks out of this, I'd be all about the website, right? But I'm not.
And it's about keeping that passion, like you were saying, for it.
I need to love this. And
Yes.
the minute it becomes about the money, it means it's about work. The minute it's about work, I go, what am I doing? I've already got a day job. And that's when we stop.
Yep.
Did you hear that, guys? Go to his website. Maybe buy some stuff. Maybe don't. Don't turn it into a job. So
Just don't make it work for me.
make it work for me.
Yeah.
Make it work for me. So future Pluto plans. There's an event coming up.
Oh, it's exciting, isn't it?
There's a big event coming up.
It's very exciting.
It is. I'm very keen.
Australia's biggest pop culture convention.
Southern Hemisphere,
Yeah,
maybe.
pretty big.
It's huge.
PAX. We're talking PAX 2024.
Everyone knows it. Any nerdy people know
October 11th till the 13th.
Mhm.
So Pluto is going to be there.
Mhm.
In what capacity?
Sure.
What's Pluto doing at PAX?
So, partnered with House of War, the two of us, so House of War and Pat and Pluto, have got a nice chunk of space, which we've invited.
Oh, we're going to be there.
and we're delighted that you've accepted our invitation to take some of that space and just hang out with us for the long weekend.
Yep.
We'll have our minis there. We'll have, we've been doing a lot of dice towers. We've been doing some experimentation with terrain. And so we'll be there trying to meet as many people as we can. We will have, obviously, House of War is going to be there. They're going to have their big LARP display
crazy
and,
LARP.
Which is so much fun, and it's
insane the level that stuff's
Yeah.
going
Yeah.
to now. Like
Yeah.
the dragons. Oh,
Wow.
And
I
then-
couldn't believe it when the dragons came out at DreamHack. I was like, that's
That's nuts,
That's
right?
nuts,
Well,
yeah.
as it turns out, he's commissioning 2 more new things.
yeah, that's not a surprise.
And so for PAX, they're going to have 2 new massive not cosplay, really, are they? They're like creatures.
It is
entities.
cosplay in a way, though,
I guess it is.
Yeah.
So they've got 2 new coming.
unless it's real dragons, and then it's not cosplay. And then
And-
that's
And there's also going to be, for those that are interested in D&D, there's going to be a D&D group there on the stand with us all as well.
okay. So people will be able to turn up and
learn to play D&D.
right.
I think they're going to run sort of some 1.5 hour little D&D sessions, and learn just a little bit about D&D and how that works. And they're going to be sort of set up in between us all, where House of War and Pluto kind of have a pretty similar mindset.
Yep.
And we're working backwards from basically almost trying to create a show within the show. So the space that we'll have, we're kind of, with you guys there, with this D&D group there, I'm going to take a 3D printer along. We're going to have that there just so people can learn about 3D printing. We can encourage people to buy their own printers because there's stuff that you can do at home and doesn't cost that much. So we're trying to make a show within a show. The LARP guys will have a heap of entertainment there as well. So PAX, come find us. We'd love to see you. Mention that you've seen this podcast as well, and there'll be a special freebie in it.
Oh, there you go.
go.
There you go.
Anyone that's sort of stopped by a Pluto stand at any of the conventions that we do know that genuinely. It's outside of seeing people's painted work, our second favourite thing is handing out freebies. So there you go.
And we will be painting Pluto miniatures.
You will.
At PAX.
You will.
So
And
we'll be there with a team of, haven't worked it out yet, 6.
I think it's going to be about six of
6
us.
to 8
so
maybe.
There'll be 6 of us probably at the table painting. Then we're going to have a couple of people going around and
Socialising with people.
Socialising, I believe, with people. We're still ironing it out a bit. So
Yeah.
we're,
But ultimately, we'll be there with 6 people painting Pluto miniatures. They'll be based on, I think, what's happening in the D&D.
there will be.
Yes.
We're tying it all together. So the your minis will be themed along with the D&D one-shots
Yep.
that'll be occurring,
And then
which we're not revealing.
No reveals just yet.
No spoilers.
And then we'll be having, because we'll just be painting, we'll be having a guest, and I think it'll be people that have been on the podcast.
Nice.
So like I've got in contact with Imsy, and that's going to be
that would be great.
absolute blast having him come and paint a Pluto miniature. And it'll be sort of like a paint cast thing where it'll be a podcast, but
A
with
paint cast.
a paint cast
Wow.
where we paint and podcast with people.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be, because we've sort of had that in discussion for a while, because we're worried for a little while with guest for the podcast. So we're like, oh, maybe if it gets to the point where we're struggling to get someone on, we can do that. So this is going to be a good sort of dip in the water to see how the paint cast goes. We're
Yeah,
having chats
sometimes
with people
it's tough to, like, we've actually got a few people in a row for our podcast now. I think we've got up, so this is 24. I think we've organised people up to 32.
Yes, we've got quite a
Wow.
while.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Which is, I absolutely love, because like it's one of my biggest stresses is finding someone else to come on the podcast. And I've thought of the idea of doing a paint cast where it's just like chat to some of the Twitch streamers. So like Esme, who's over in the UK. I mean, I could probably just message her and say do a podcast, but we could also just do a paint together and I do the standard interview and
Yeah. So it'll be good, but I think it's going to be
Very
good
cool.
because we've had moments where after we've done this podcast where we've sat in this room with some people for like half an hour to 45 minutes just chatting, and it was stuff that probably could have been pretty cool for the
As
podcast.
always,
So,
yeah. The post chat and the pre chat easily could be on podcast.
Just leave a mic running so secretly in the corner.
Yeah, I have
at the end
to.
of
I have to
every-
record that separately and maybe edit
Yeah.
some of the
Yeah,
language.
it's all right. Just that bit was a bit boring.
it gets a bit
Just leave
yeah.
the lips going.
YouTube started to do this thing where it's like demonetizing stuff if there's
too much swearing.
too much swearing, especially at the start. If there's swearing in the first 10 seconds, they don't like that.
Wow.
So PAX is going to be
PAX
exciting.
is going to be huge.
We'll undoubtedly have more information as we sort of collaborate and work out the actual details a bit more. But we'll be painting stuff. I still haven't worked out how we're going to have a camera that can focus on 6 people's different work yet. But we'll get there. We'll work it out.
Surely that's
we'll
6
figure
cameras.
it out.
Oh, I don't know how we're going to hook 6 cameras up to my poor little laptop. That's well, have you got any other avenues you're going to be looking at in terms of your printing? So right now it's primarily D&D stuff.
It's fantasy. So it's kind of a lot of the minis are used for fantasy and painters.
Yeah.
So, as you've said, a lot of painters do love the minis, and a lot of people don't play anything. They just paint. And they love the minis. It's all customer led. So we have a backlog that we track, and it's all based on what customers have asked us for. So if there's anything out there that you really want, you've been struggling to get, just ping me on Instagram is probably the best way.
Yeah, you are very responsive on Instagram.
Yes.
So like if you guys are after like specifics,
Yeah, definitely let me know, and I'll
slide in.
Yeah.
So how you see what sort of is working and what the community wants is you go off what's been sold pretty much, obviously without it making a work thing.
Yep.
So you'll see which is popular at house and stuff like that. So then you know
Exactly.
what sort of avenue to go down.
but
you
also
move further.
direct requests. So, sort of the first couple of years was, D&D's kind of got this base, goblins, orcs, the normal, and that's sort of how we got to the 100 and something packets that we've got. Now it becomes, we've kind of got the base covered for fantasy. We had a number of people, so House of War have a lot of people interested in World War II. So over the last 2-3 months, we've actually been experimenting with and looking at World War II models.
Yep.
For a game called
Bolt
Bolt Action.
Yeah.
And so we've printed out a couple of sets of those. And House of War are just putting them in front of a few customers to see. So we're thinking about going down that path.
Very cool.
I love sci-fi. I've been into sci-fi since my Apple IIe.
Yep.
And so I'd love to get into some more sci-fi stuff, but I'm not sure if customers really want that more than they want more fantasy, for example.
Yeah.
I'd be
I don't
interested
know
to see
if
sci-fi.
people buy sci-fi minis. If they do, is it
I'd be interested, but I'm also a very
I'll tell you what,
person.
BattleTech was the
huge.
most popular thing at Victorious.
Was it?
Yep, we had a range of different models there. We had Desperado cowboy models.
Yeah.
We had Space Marines there. We had some army
like
guys,
old English knights, and
Napoleonic
stuff.
stuff.
Yeah.
BattleTech.
Because that's 15 mil, isn't it? The scale on that. Is that right?
Which one's the battle?
Actually, it's smaller, isn't it?
It was about the
BattleTech.
Yeah, the BattleTech.
BattleTech stuff's probably about the size of a Terminator.
Yeah.
So they're probably about like 40 mil high.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
That was we didn't have any left.
Yeah, wow.
No, not a
Mind you,
single
I
part of
took the last one and painted it, and some
Okay.
guy wanted to paint it.
Okay.
Yeah, because you can only get it in a specific box, which we
So-
knew nothing about. But
So,
yeah.
I mean, ultimately for Pluto, 1 to 5 years from now, if this is my full-time job, baby, I'm happy. And if it's because, we've got fantasy covered, we've got sci-fi covered, we've got World War II or armies, historical covered, terrain. I love the dice towers, just being a dice junkie. We've got some incredible dice towers, again, by amazing artists.
Do you know what? Leave a comment with stuff you'd like to see potentially. Doesn't mean it's going to happen.
It'd be
but-
good to see what the
But
community-
maybe, if you're not really, wanting to slide in someone's DMs, just leave a comment and be like, "Hey, it'd be cool to," because I know what I want to see.
Yep.
I want to see upgrade sprues for Space Marines.
Yep.
That's the stuff I want to see, like cool helmets and shoulders that fit the aesthetic.
I want
That's
cool
the
bases.
cool bases.
Yeah, like Tyrannid style.
Yeah, so
bases,
leave a
yeah.
comment, guys, if there's stuff you'd like to see 3D printed, and you'll never
yeah,
know. You never know.
100%. And for things that are hard to get, right? So we don't mind. We look for gaps in the market, right? We don't. There's a heap of stuff out there already, and whatever else. If it's hard to get, we'd love to bring joy to someone else's tabletop, right? That's what this is all about for us. It really is.
And after yesterday, seeing how many different I knew there was tabletop games, but not to the caliber which we saw yesterday. So there is a lot. I was so much. I was walking around looking at some of them, and I'm like, that's cool. But then it was like, Tyrannids. Paint my Tyrannids, and then I can worry about other tabletop
there's
games.
that whole thing. I often, I don't know why I do this. I often walk past shops, right? There's a shop that's down the street, and it's like a geology shop, and it's got like little rocks and stuff,
Mhm.
and it's all about like star signs and all that type of stuff.
Yeah.
I'm not into that, and I'm just like, because I'm not into that, I'm like, well, there's no way a shop could exist that sells rocks and but there are so many people out there that are into that, and it's yesterday proved that with the hobby. I was like, there can't be that many people that are interested in Bolt Action or Desperado little cowboys.
But it's massive. There are so many people.
But
it was
are.
crazy. It was good. It's good. Like, because technically even though we're doing 40K and we're into 40K, it just shows how many people like us that there are that like the strategy tabletop games, that like rolling dice with their friends.
Exactly.
Because that's what it was. It was people having a good time with their friends, really. It didn't seem like a convention per se with people being there because they're wanting the money side of it. They're doing it because they've got a passion for hobby as its own.
Yep. Remember that funeral, right?
Yeah.
What got me into that was hearing my mates get up and talk about him at the tabletop.
Yeah.
And
What are
that
you gonna
shared
say?
bowl of chips.
What are you going to
and-
say at how many ones I roll?
Yeah.
You've
Yeah,
never
you
seen
do
someone.
roll. You do roll pretty.
You've never
crappy.
seen someone roll as bad as this.
He
man.
rolls crappy until we're playing a game, and then
is
it's
that what happened?
because he
uses up all his
always
bad
says
luck
it. He always says,
online.
"I've got terrible rolls," and we play a game, and he will roll some of the wildest rolls, and it's like, why can't you roll the same as you roll in your gambers?
Yeah, those gamba rolls are crazy. Although you did roll pretty strong the other night, actually.
Last
One of them,
night-
there was
last night-
Was it? It wasn't last night. I think it was 3 nights ago. I think.
Oh yeah, maybe
can't
not last
remember.
night or the night before, but there was one roll that you did, and it was insane. I think it was to I don't know what it was. It was, but there was some hot rolls, and everyone was like, "Wait a minute."
I think it was a save roll on 4+ invuln.
And
There's
it
like
was like
one fail.
One fail, yeah. That's what it was.
Yeah. Dice are the best. The tabletop's the best.
Dice don't lie.
The shared bowl of chips and that drink that we all have around the tabletop. The game almost doesn't matter. It's just about the bowl of chips, right?
Yep.
I think that's a good end to a podcast, that one.
Absolutely.
We might have to go get a bowl of chips and roll some dice, I
Sounds
think.
perfect.
Yeah.
Yep. Sounds good, man. Let's do it.
All right, guys. So that is the end of the podcast. Beer and pretzels, Tiny says. Beer and pretzels. Well, man, that'd get you very sort of thirsty, wouldn't it? The pretzels.
And then the beer, yeah.
Yeah.
It just means more beer, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. All right. Keep an eye out in the links below in this podcast because I will put down all the stuff for Pluto. Like we said, jump in the DMs if you've got some ideas or leave some comments because community fueled miniatures over here.
We're hoping that our relationship with Pluto grows as time goes on as well. So,
me too.
yes,
You guys are awesome.
Yeah. Well, my guy, my mate I work with wants me to paint all the elementals. So somewhere along the line, I'm going to have to get like all 6 or 7 elementals.
I know a guy that can hook you up.
I need to do the mushroom man. That's what I want to do.
The treants. That mushroom treant is a fabulous model. Yeah.
All right, guys. Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Don't
everyone.
forget to like, share, and sub. I probably forgot that at the start, like I always do, but take it easy, guys, and we'll see you on episode 25 with, I think it could be Lorne from Victorious, the NWA.
No, very
Nice.
cool. Yep.
Yeah, I have to confirm that, but take it easy, guys.
See you next time.